to assist police following more allegations involving Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Join us, Sky.
Of York, Sarah Ferguson has been labelled desperate and a degenerate in the latest instalment of the Epstein files, with emails between her and Jeffrey Epstein revealing she was regularly chasing money and attention from the convicted pedophile. The exchanges seemingly indicate that the disgraced ex-wife of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was very attached to Jeffrey Epstein, telling him he was her pillar. She also wrote, "I am at your service, just marry me. And this, when are you going to employ me?"
What you just watched is just the tip of the iceberg. We're talking about Fergie, the Duchess of York, and a rather sticky situation involving the late, unlamented Jeffrey Epstein. Did you think we were done with that particular scandal? Oh, my sweet summer child, we are never truly done with anything when it comes to the royal family and their more colourful connections. Today, we're diving into newly unearthed documents that suggest Sarah Ferguson's past financial woes might just be dragging her into a very uncomfortable spotlight once more, thanks to a former personal assistant who apparently knows some dirty stuff. And when we say dirty stuff in the context of Epstein, you know we're not talking about unwashed dishes, do you? This is more potentially legal trouble dirty. Quick favor, if you're loving this, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers haven't yet. It's free, takes a second, and means the world to us. Thanks. If you did, now back to the show. If you thought you had seen it all, wait until you hear this.
5 days after that pervert was released from prison, Sarah Ferguson was taking her daughters, or offering to take her daughters, aged 19 and 17, to have lunch with a paedophile. You could not make up what self-respecting mother, let alone Sarah Ferguson, would think that was an appropriate.
So, cast your minds back to 2010. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess who famously and rather spectacularly declared bankruptcy in the US, found herself in a bit of a financial pickle. A pickle that, according to these newly released Jeffrey Epstein documents, involved her owing nearly £100,000 to her former personal assistant, one Johnny O'Sullivan. Now, 100 grand is not exactly chump change, even for a royal, or rather a former royal spouse. It's the kind of money that makes you sit up and take notice. And apparently, it was also the kind of money that made Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, her ex-husband, fly to Manhattan to request Epstein himself pay the bill. Yes, you heard that correctly. The disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein stepping in as a financial white knight for a member of the extended royal family. The optics, as the kids say, are not exactly smashing. This is where it gets absolutely delicious or utterly dreadful depending on your perspective. An email chain from the infamous Epstein files recently made public sheds a rather harsh light on this whole affair. Imagine this. It's November 27th, 2010. Epstein, ever the puppet master, sends an email to his associate, David Stern, asking a rather pointed question about a negative piece of press regarding the Duchess. His exact words? Who talks? Now, that's not the kind of question you ask if you're just idly curious about a newspaper article, is it? That's the question of someone looking to shut down a leak, to understand who might be spilling the beans. And Stern's reply? No idea. Details in the article seem very accurate. Oh, darling, that's a red flag waving vigorously in a hurricane. Very accurate usually means truth hurts. But just a bit away from this, what is the royal family doing about this?
Extraordinary statement that dropped last night about 6 p.m. local time, and one that's very unprecedented by Buckingham Palace to really weigh in so specifically on these allegations levelled against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Now, we know that the bad headlines, Steve, just keep on coming in relation to his connections to US pedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. And just on the front of the Sun here, Steve, this morning, the front page here, King will help the cops on Andy. I mean, this is just extraordinary stuff. And then on the front of the Daily Mail, King's profound concern over Andrew claims as Palace ready to work with police. This is a scandal that is gripping the royal family, Steve, and one that they are really hoping would subside in 2026. But now we're hearing allegations that he leaked sensitive government information when he was US envoy to Jeffrey Epstein. So this scandal is only just heating up here in the UK and incredibly concerning for the royal family.
Just on the logistics of it, Sophie, the Thames Valley Police, they're going to look into the allegations about what you just...
Then Epstein, with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer, drops this bombshell. I know she called me yesterday, Johnny, blah, blah. Johnny. Man Johnny O'Sullivan, the personal assistant, the one owed all that money. And Stern's retort, this is the kicker, folks. Stern wrote, she's terrified about Johnny. He must know some dirty stuff. Terrified about Johnny. Let that sink in for a moment. Not concerned, not annoyed, not even a bit miffed. No, the word used is terrified. And the reason for this terror? Because Johnny, after 18 years of working for the Duchess, must know some dirty stuff. Now, what kind of dirty stuff could a personal assistant, intimately involved in the day-to-day life of a Duchess, know that would elicit such a visceral reaction, such abject fear? That it's being discussed by Jeffrey Epstein and his associates, it certainly paints a picture, doesn't it? A picture far more vivid and troubling than any official portrait. And let's not forget the sheer audacity of the situation. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, a senior royal, apparently flew to Manhattan to personally ask Epstein to settle his ex-wife's debt. Epstein, in his charming, predatory way, agreed to help, even describing O'Sullivan as a little squib for daring to ask for the money he was owed. It's a scene straight out of a rather sordid thriller, isn't it? The heir apparent's younger brother, a convicted sex offender, and a former royal duchess entangled in a web of debt and alleged secrets. The kind of secrets that make you wonder just how deep the rabbit hole goes. I think it's important you watch this.
Buckingham Palace will come to King Charles himself in relation to his disgraced brother. He will cooperate with any investigation, as we would expect. But this is just extraordinary, Steve. This is an unprecedented crisis for the royal family, and one that they're saying has not been since the abdication in the 1930s. It's that big. So it's undoubtedly something that will continue to dominate the headlines here in the UK.
This latest release from the Epstein files isn't just a minor footnote, it's a giant, flashing neon sign pointing directly at Ferguson's alleged friendship, or rather, her alleged reliance on the disgraced financier. And it goes deeper. In a January 2010 email, allegedly from Fergie to Epstein, the tone shifts from professional acquaintance to something far more effusive. She reportedly wrote, "You are a legend. I really don't have the words to describe my love, gratitude for your generosity and kindness. XX, I am at your service. Just marry me. Just marry me." Now, unless that's a particularly elaborate British joke that has gone completely over my head, it sounds like a rather desperate or perhaps even flirtatious plea from someone deeply indebted, both financially and possibly emotionally, to a very powerful, very dangerous man. A legend who was, in fact, a monster. The implications are simply chilling. To be at someone's service and to suggest marriage to a man like Epstein, even in jest or out of a sense of overwhelming gratitude, speaks volumes about the perceived depth of their connection and the circumstances surrounding it. It suggests a level of intimacy and dependency that is profoundly disturbing, given Epstein's documented history. And let's be clear, being named or pictured in these files does not automatically imply wrongdoing on the part of Sarah Ferguson, nor Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Both have strenuously denied any knowledge of Epstein's heinous crimes. Andrew, in particular, has consistently denied wrongdoing in connection with Epstein. Sarah Ferguson herself has expressed profound regret at her association with Epstein, stating, "I would never have anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein ever again. I abhor paedophilia and any sexual abuse of children. It was a gigantic error of judgment. A gigantic error of judgment, indeed." But as these emails surface, one has to ask, how gigantic was this error and how much did it truly entail? But let us pause for a moment and consider the bigger picture. This isn't just about Fergie and her financial woes, nor about Andrew's questionable choices and friends. This is about the royal family, perceived to be above the fray, constantly being dragged into the murky depths of scandal and controversy. Every time one of these documents drops, it chips away a little more at that carefully constructed facade of regal decorum and unimpeachable character. It makes you wonder how many other gigantic errors of judgment are still lurking in the shadows, waiting for the light of public scrutiny. The narrative here is not just about guilt or innocence in the legal sense, it's about perception, about accountability, and about the sheer undeniable awkwardness of these connections. The royal family, always striving for that image of stability and tradition, finds itself repeatedly tangled in the kind of modern-day scandals that would make even the most seasoned soap opera writer blush. And it's not just historical whispers, these are current, ongoing revelations that continue to impact public opinion and the monarchy's standing. Think about the sheer audacity of Epstein, a man who by 2010 already had a shadow of suspicion following him being the person to bail out a member of the royal household. It speaks to a certain level of desperation, or perhaps a staggering lack of judgment, on the part of those seeking his assistance. Was it simply that Epstein had money and was willing to use it, or was there something else at play, something that made the risk of association seem worthwhile, despite the obvious red flags? These are the questions that linger, like a bad smell long after the initial shock wears off. And Johnny O'Sullivan, the long-serving personal assistant. Imagine being in his shoes, working for the Duchess for nearly 2 decades, then finding yourself owed a substantial sum after her bankruptcy. And then, the person who ultimately helped settle that debt is none other than Jeffrey Epstein. The knowledge that he must know some dirty stuff about Fergie, as Stern so ominously put it, is the linchpin of this entire sordid tale. What secrets did he hold? What did he witness during those 18 years that would cause such terror? Was it purely financial impropriety, or something far more damning? The lack of specifics only fuels the imagination, and in the world of royal scandals, imagination often runs wild, filling in the terrifying blanks. This entire episode serves as a stark reminder that even those who inhabit the gilded cages of royalty are not immune to the gravitational pull of desperate circumstances and unsavory characters. The royal family, for all its pomp and circumstance, is still made up of individuals with very human frailties, very human problems, and very human connections, some of which are far from savory. And every time these connections are exposed, it forces us to reevaluate the narrative, to question the carefully curated image, and to wonder what other skeletons are still rattling around in those vast ancient closets. The timing of these revelations is also crucial. In a world where the monarchy is constantly under scrutiny, where questions of relevance and public funding are never far from the surface, these kinds of scandals hit harder. They provide ammunition for critics and fuel the public's fascination with the hidden lives of the royals. It's a constant tightrope walk between tradition and modernity, between public service and private indulgence, and every now and then, someone loses their footing rather spectacularly. So, where does this leave us with Fergie? Well, her past statements of regret ring hollower with each new document that emerges. The gigantic error of judgment seems to have been more deeply entwined than she initially let on. The casual, "just marry me" in an email to Epstein is not just a throwaway line. It's a window into a relationship that at the very least was built on a foundation of significant financial dependency and at worst, something far more complicated and troubling. The royal family, for all its power and privilege, cannot simply erase these associations. The past, as they say, is a stubborn beast. And with every new batch of Epstein files, that beast roars a little louder, reminding us all that even the highest echelons of society are not immune to the gravitational pull of scandal, particularly when it involves money, power, and the darkest corners of human behavior. And let us not forget the implications for the wider royal narrative. While Andrew has stepped back from public duties, these revelations continue to cast a long shadow over the institution itself. It's a continuous drip, drip, drip of uncomfortable truths that over time can erode public trust and affection. The carefully constructed image of a benevolent, dignified monarchy takes a hit each time one of these stories breaks. Ultimately, these documents are not just about the past, they are about the present and the future. They are a constant reminder that the royal family's past is not merely a collection of historical anecdotes, but a living, breathing entity that continues to influence their standing, their relationships, and their public perception. And as long as there are more files to be released, more emails to be unearthed, and more secrets to be spilled, the drama, the speculation, and the public's insatiable curiosity will continue. So, the question remains, what else does Johnny O'Sullivan know? What other dirty stuff is lurking just beneath the surface, and how much more will come to light before this chapter, if it ever truly does, finally closes? One thing is for certain, the saga of the royal family, their friends, their finances, and their rather questionable choices is far from over, and we here at UK Unfiltered will be here to unravel every single salacious detail for you. Thank you for watching.